Fantastic. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. We've got Don and Tony, our fearless leaders of our kind of nascent Temescal Merchant Support Outreach Committee for the Temescal bid. I'm super excited to have Harry Hamilton here from the City of Oakland Economic and Workforce Development to kind of present on their plans, their economic recovery plan, what they're working on, what the process is, and to hear kind of feedback and questions from y'all. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you all. And does everyone see my screen now?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So actually, let me stop sharing so we can go around, sorry, and introduce each other. I'd love to learn a little bit more. All right.
Tony, you're muted.
Okay, I'm Tony. I'm from Universal Beauty Supply and Style Center, and I'm a board member. Been in the district for a very long time, like 26 some years. John's iPad, that's my father, and we work the business together.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Guy, and ownership of the Temescal Plaza.
Awesome.
So I'm Don, and I have a building down on 40th Street, and I also run a business here, East Bay Computer Services, and I live here. So I'm a resident, a business owner, and a property owner. I pay the bid assessments on my property.
Wow. Awesome.
Somebody's got a reverb going.
I am muting Tony and John for a second. Sorry. You might be in the same location and there's some interactivity when y'all both have sound on. But thanks for introducing yourselves. And you can unmute yourselves when you want to talk next. I'm Shifra. I'm the executive director for the Temescal bid. Y'all know me.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. My name is Harry Hamilton. I think Tony's trying to say something, actually. No, you're good? Okay. So I'm Harry Hamilton. I'm marketing coordinator in business development in the Economic and Workforce Development Department. Been with the city close to 19 years, Adams Point resident, and truly do love Oakland. So thank you all so much. So let me do a quick presentation and highlighting kind of our recovery planning efforts right now. And then I do want to get some feedback from you all. So, all right, everyone seeing my screen? Great. And uh-oh. We may have a problem. Ah, there we go. Right button helps for sure. So in 2018 to 2020, we had an economic development strategy that really focused on East Oakland. You were just talking about the bus stop platforms. Well, one of the projects in East Oakland we worked on was the BRT Bus Rapid Transit Business Assistance Fund. We also have a TCC grant out there, the Opportunity Zone, which is a federal tax credit for real estate development, and then two different projects where city-owned land was developed. One of those is Seminary Point Retail Plaza, and then Liberation Park right across from Eastmont Mall, which has been really amazingly activated and programmed by the Black Cultural Zone. So much of East Oakland, which was our focus, also was deeply impacted by the pandemic. So on the screen, you can see the highest rates of unemployment insurance claims were in East Oakland, and also COVID cases. So we know the Far East has been deeply impacted. What you've also probably all heard of too is kind of the K-shaped recovery. So what this slide is showing you, the red line are high wage earners, those earning more than 60,000 a year. And they have certainly had a drop to well below 10% or a 10% drop, but they've bounced back. The folks who are most deeply impacted are our low wage workers. So those are folks in the restaurant industry and certain retail industries. And we've heard and understand that they've been deeply impacted, and they've had a decline still of about 25% in unemployment. In some good news, March 2021 unemployment figure for Oakland overall is at 7.7%. That is an amazing recovery. In April of 2020, we were at over 16%. So part of our response in the last year was to form the Economic Recovery Advisory Council. 50 individuals from across industry segments really came together and offered both short-term and long-term policy recommendations. And there's a great document that's up on the city's website that kind of outlines that great work. And I can't recall if SHFRA specifically was on there, but we had several different business improvement districts that were, checking my list real quick, and I'm not sure SHFRA was.
No, I wasn't. It's all good.
Okay, sorry.
No worries. One less meeting to attend.
So the advisory council led to those initial policy legislations. So where we're at right now is taking those recommendations and really boiling them down into 5 key areas. And I'd like to share those with you, and then just a little bit later, get some additional input from you. So the first one, where we understand that financial resources are the #1 need for business recovery. And while grants are great, most of the grant opportunities have concluded. You all may be aware that the State of California grant program, their last round 6 ended on May 5th, I believe it was. So what one of our focuses, I think, will be, at least what we're hearing from the community right now, is really getting businesses credit ready. When we were doing our outreach for our local grant programs late in 2020, one of the things we heard were small businesses may not have things like income statements or bank statements, and some of them, the fundamental documents that any loan program or grant program may request. So an important part of this will be to get those small businesses credit ready, and really work with community organizations and our local community development financial institutions to provide both lending and technical assistance to help businesses get ready to receive that money. The second item that we're hearing is important is equity in contracting. So part of what we're looking at is actually helping small and local businesses become certified and to train them on becoming aware of government procurement opportunities, both with the city, but also the amazing number of public agencies locally that we have. Concurrently with that, we would like to develop a directory of local vendors in an online platform that will make it easier for public sector agencies to identify local vendors. And we're working with our Department of Workplace and Environmental Employment Standards on that one. The third topic is really the social safety net. And part of the challenge is we have gotten so used to not being together that we need to kind of start learning to share again and engage youth in sharing those voices as well. So actually my colleagues who are most directly involved in this are presenting to the Youth Commission as we speak. that started at 5:30. We'll also, to help build that social safety net, work and strengthen partnerships to address violence prevention and increase social cohesion. So we have a new Department of Violence Prevention, and we're looking at ways of partnering with them to address public safety issues that we know are impacting the business community. And that includes both crime, but also our unsheltered residents of Oakland. Fourth thing that we're hearing is the need to grow demand and investment in Oakland. And our idea around that is really to develop and execute an expanded citywide marketing program. Also strengthen our business improvement districts. You all are very fortunate in Temescal to have a very well organized and active business improvement district. I believe we have 13 right now, two additional ones likely will be formed this year. One more is a little bit further out. So we really want to strengthen those programs because bids can offer those additional services beyond the city's baseline. And then for those who aren't ready to form that bid, we understand that the need for merchant organizing at a more fundamental level and then work towards formation of the bids. And then our fifth item we're hearing about is workforce development. So as the previous slide showed, we know that low wage workers have been incredibly impacted. So we want to work to upskill and reskill them if needed. We have a robust summer youth employment program that's going to launch here actually later this month, I believe, but we'd really like to expand those types of employment programs to year-round functionality. Real quick, we were talking about surveys early on. We actually have an economic recovery survey, and I'll put the link in the chat here. But we're encouraged that small businesses are slightly optimistic on a positive local recovery, a bit more optimistic on a national recovery. As I stated earlier, financial assistance, grants and loans are the top business needs. Public safety is the second item, and then the marketing campaign is the third most important item mentioned. I wanted to point out that we have a wonderful Fuse fellow who's embedded in our department. He's conducting one-on-one interviews with business support organizations, individual small businesses, community serving organizations, and bids. So we're pretty excited to have that help as we build this out. So what's next right now? We are continuing our outreach to businesses and community organizations, and going to focus our discussions on refining permit assistance. So we all know that at times businesses will interact with the city on different permit needs. Schiffer will tell you from her special event permit to her sound permit, those are examples. On the more typical business side, it's your business license certificate, permits if you need to do any work on your particular space. We're also going to be refining our procurement targets. Again, that goes back to the goal of buying more services and products locally. The bid formation, youth, healthcare. We all know that healthcare is an amazing and important business sector in Oakland. Manufacturing is one that historically has been vital for Oakland, and we really want to prop that up where we can. The final one is decarbonization. Our colleagues in Public Works have put together a decarbonization plan, and we want to see how that can help us bolster the local business community. Summer of 2020, we'll do a report out on the engagement and interviews. And then in fall 2021, we'll deliver an economic recovery plan. And the plan, honestly, will have some very short-term goals, I've mentioned the marketing plan. We actually did a beta launch of that for Mother's Day, and it's called Moms, Grads, and Dads. And so the economic recovery plan will have those immediate goals as well as longer term goals. So I'm going to scroll back to this page because I think this is probably helpful for discussion, and want to hear from you all now if I could. Yes, guys.
Yeah. Growing demand and investment. The biggest. So you've got say you've got the big boys that want to come in and invest in properties, all that kind of stuff, business, get you into Oakland, all that kind of stuff. The biggest thing is and you having a permit assistance. Is there some kind of, for these guys to come in and, if they're creating so many jobs or anything, is there some kind of program that you could do as sort of a permit concierge system that would help them get through this kind of thing? Because that's what's the scary thing is. It's going through all the permitting, all this kind of stuff, see how they can do it. Is there some kind of, and maybe there is already in place. I haven't done it in Oakland. I know in Napa County there isn't, and I know in San Francisco there certainly isn't. Is there some kind of sort of, I don't know how to put it, rather concierge system that could help them go, listen, I want to bring in, I mean, look at Whole Foods up on 51st Street. That was probably a tough one to get in. They could have probably used some help getting in. And mind you, they're a big business. It's Amazon, so they've got 1,000 people that can do that kind of stuff. But say you've got a medium-sized, big investor wants to come in. What kind of incentives do you give them to sort of kind of pave the way here or help them ease? I mean, maybe it's not a viable business, but you can done that. But some kind of way to say, okay, we'd love to have you. Let's do this, and we've got these rules, we got the carbon, we've got this. Let's take it step by step and let's go through this. Is there something planned in place to do that?
So I'm happy to share that we're 2 months into an internal working group tackling reimagining permitting, because we know that's a major pinch point.
Yes. Okay, so that covers everything of that. That's
right. Right. And one of the things that we've definitely started doing is meeting with our colleagues in planning and building that get those applications or inquiries, and our business development staff can meet with the developer or business and kind of guide them and make suggestions and serve kind of as a concierge in some way. So often that insight early on before a project pre-application goes in can really help folks save some time as well. And that's really where we want to try and focus our best efforts. At the same time, we also really do want to help the small businesses. Oakland is a city of small businesses. Small businesses, I think it's like 51% of our jobs are provided by small businesses. So we also want to make sure that we take care of those folks as well. And so we are looking at ways, our business assistance center, which was a physical location, has gone virtual during COVID, obviously. And as we come out of COVID, we're actually looking at trying to decentralize. So folks don't have to come down to us. We can have, let's call them service centers in different neighborhoods throughout the city by appointment. So hopefully going out to where they are rather than having them come to us. So,
well, that's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Tony, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, what type of direct assistance do you have for small businesses to get these loans or grants or?
Right, and so that's going to be part of what we map out in this next recovery plan. I think our initial thoughts are to work with our community development financial institutions to provide that webinar or one-on-one assistance to get businesses ready as far as gathering the necessary documents that you would need for a loan package. And you may have heard about the California Rebuilding Fund. It's a significant amount of loan money that is going to be available through participating CDFIs. And we're fortunate to have several in Oakland and the greater Bay Area that'll be participating and making those loans available to small businesses here in Oakland.
So are those loans that need to be paid back? They're not like grants or anything like that. Those are loans that's going to be needed to be paid back.
Correct. Those are unforgivable loans.
Mhm.
I think I'm hopeful with the budget surplus that the governor is mentioning that there may be an additional round of the California State Grant Program. So they had 6 rounds of that that concluded in early May. I'm not sure if you applied for those or not.
Well, everything we applied for, we never got an answer. And when going back to apply for it, they said, oh, well, there's nothing left now.
Okay.
And we had everything. And then when we tried to apply for even the things in the very, very beginning at the banks, we got nothing. And then they said, oh, there's nothing left now.
So I think what you may be referring to is the Paycheck Protection Program, which was the Small Business Administration.
Those and also other loans and grants that we applied for. And every time we applied, then they never said anything. And then by the time we got a reply to our questions of what's going on, it was, we have nothing left.
Okay. I'm sorry that was your experience. I'm hoping that through this technical assistance, we'll be able to make particularly the loan programs much more accessible to folks. So.
Yeah, but if you're already down and you make a loan, how are you going to pay the loan back if you don't have business?
And that's a business decision each individual owner will have to make.
I see. Thank you.
But we want to make sure that they have all of the information and all of the resources that are out there to make the most informed decision. Yeah. Hi, Don. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all read about how the feds have approved $1 trillion to rebuild, and the state government has also said that they have this money to assist people. Where is it, and how is that assistance actually going to be delivered to the public?
And I think,
and what role does the city have in it, I guess, is the other question.
Right. And I think that's a really good question. So particularly the governor's proposal right now still has to be approved by the state legislature. And then once that budget is passed, those programs need to be set up if they're new programs. For example, his housing money, I believe, is going to the existing program. So right now, my colleagues in the housing department have a grant program both for landlords and tenants to help them try and pay both rent and basic utility needs.
Okay, that's residential landlords and tenants, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, well, let me put my case out there and we can use it as an example. I'm a commercial landlord. My tenants are a contractor, a house painter kind of guy, a cleaning service, a nail salon, and a digital image. What do you call it? I think of it as a touch-up artist. Anyways, of those, only the digital image business is doing well. The nail salon was closed by the county for most of the pandemic period. They paid rent for the first time in a year. And then the other two have kind of been middling through. The cleaning business is only starting to work again. So what kind of assistance is there for them? For they are, tenants, they're commercial tenants with a certain amount of delinquency. They also have some needs to get their businesses going again. If they're going to hire and do some, get back into work as they get their people vaccinated and things like that start to happen, how do they build up? I mean, are they going to have any seed money? Is there going to be any type of assistance to them?
Right. And again, on the state level, that's going to depend on what the state legislature it approves in the final budget. We know what the governor has proposed, but until it's an adopted, approved budget by the legislature, it's all speculation. So one of the things that we're actually working on right now is some webinars for commercial landlords so that they understand what their options are. That will be in concurrent to the webinars and information sessions we've had for the commercial tenant side. So we want to make sure that the landlords are aware of what their options are as well.
Quickly, is there any assistance for the commercial tenant?
Currently, there is not. So the grant program that I mentioned, the state grant program, concluded. Their last applications were accepted on May 5th.
Mm-hmm.
The city's grant programs, our first one ran in April of 2020. The bulk of them ran in, October and November of 2020. So at present, there are no grant programs at the city level.
At the state level either?
Not at the state level either, because those applications closed on April 5th. So my hope is that with the state budget, there will be additional grant monies at the state level.
Doesn't the PPP close at the end of May?
In effect, the PPP, as Tony was mentioning, is out of funds.
Oh, got you.
So PPP was another big program that we pushed, as well as SBA's emergency or economic impact disaster loans. So, but my understanding is, as of Monday, there's very little funding available through select CDFIs for PPP. So.
And the federal money that's just been approved, where is that going to be spent? And who is managing it?
So it depends on what federal money specifically you're asking about. So the city of Oakland did receive American Rescue Plan funds. And forgive me, was that in March? I think that was in March. And city council had decided to use a portion of that to close the deficit in the current fiscal year that we're in right now. And there's a balance of American Rescue Plan funds that the mayor has proposed to use to balance the next fiscal year's city budget.
The emergency loans that you mentioned, what interest rate were those?
The PPP loans are, I think it's 1%, but many of the PPP loans are forgivable if they're used for certain expenses like payroll.
But the emergency.
The economic injury disaster loans?
Yeah, what were those?
I honestly think that's at 1% as well. Let me double check real quick.
So you don't want no payback. You don't want no loans that you.
I do want to mention the California Rebuilding Fund. Those loans are going to be at, right now, I believe it's at 4.25% interest. Bear with me 1 second. I'm not typing well here to get to where I need to go.
And kind of as you're on the screen, for folks who don't know, he's on the oaklandbusinesscenter.com website with all sorts of information that they've been posting up during the past year. And there's lots more on there as well that you can go check out
For sure.
at your leisure. And I really appreciate the really easy to type in URL that I can remember.
I tried to set that up early on, so I'm sorry, idle loans are at 3.75.
So it's
So
basically right.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
Basically mortgage rates just over.
Correct. Correct. Awesome. I did want to put in the chat. So I know there have been questions about loans and grants. I think what that does is reinforce what we've already heard, that financial support is the #1 need out there for the business community. So this is reinforcing what we've already heard. I don't have a good answer right now, unfortunately, but it's valuable in that it's confirming what we've heard from others. And what I wanted to do is in the chat, I just put in the link to the business recovery survey for small businesses. And then you may have heard me mention our right now weekly business update emails. If you'd like to subscribe to those, the second link, and I misspelled business, whoops, is for that. And I'm really encouraging everyone to sign up directly for those business updates, because that's where we push out the information on this grant is available now, it closes on this date. This loan is available now, it closes on this date. And I know Shifra has been a great partner in pushing that information out and amplifying it for us. So just want to
And
appreciate
I also tell folks as well, so we, try to kind of batch things that pertain to Temescal, but if you want to hear about it the moment it's going out, sign up directly. And then you can, when we write up our little format, you'll hear about it again later.
And the America Rescue Act or Recovery Act, whatever they want to call it, it had stipulations in it for funds for state and local governments. One of the things the Republicans were against, where there was supposed to be money for council to do exactly what they did, which was patch up their budget, which has obviously suffered during the pandemic. But there's also, the infrastructure spending, the other things. Where is that? And is it going to come through here? Is infrastructure money going to be spent in Oakland? What's going on?
And I want to preface my comments by saying I haven't been really briefed on the infrastructure bill. I would guess that some of that spending will be through like Caltrans. So if it's going to be a freeway related project, it'd be through Caltrans. If funds go directly to the city, they would go to perhaps Department of Transportation and or Public Works, depending on whether it's a road project or like a public building project. I'm not sure if you've seen in the local news, one of the big topics that has come up is about Interstate 980 and using those infrastructure funds to address that freeway that has so seriously divided West Oakland from downtown. So that's one example of how it could be used. Because that is such a new program, I'm not sure the exact funding pathways have been outlined yet, but I can check on that and let Shifra know to share at the next meeting.
Okay, I would say that, one of the things we talk to the businesses around here, there have been different programs. PPP was there for a while. There was other things. And a large number of people didn't know where to begin. I applied for one of those California grants, and you had to apply through an agency. You didn't apply directly to them. You applied through you know, some nonprofit. You picked off of a table full of nonprofits you've never heard of. And then, and I'm kind of used to those things. I run a business, but other people, you know, they don't have quite the experience with bureaucracy that all of us do. So, you know, we don't have a place that I know of where you can say, this is the type of business I have. What kind of assistance can I look for? And we did have the Oakland Business Assistance Center, and I don't know if that still works the way it did before. And we also used to have the common application to qualify as a local vendor. It was like a multi-agency application. Does that still exist?
So the Business Assistance Center, as I mentioned, has gone virtual during the pandemic. And that's where we hope to kind of decentralize once things reopen and actually have those office hours out in the community. The common shared procurement form, I believe, still exists. But again, that will be one of those issues we'll address when we look at equitable contracting, is we want to remove those barriers of all that paperwork. So imagine if there's one online form you can use to become a contractor for the Port of Oakland, East Bay Mud, AC Transit in the city of Oakland. Ideally, that's what we would love to do for Oakland small businesses, is to come up with that common shared document. I think it had existed. I can't remember how many agencies were using it, but we'd like to amplify that and bring in more agencies.
Well, originally it was Nate Miley's office that was promoting it. And that brings us to another question. Where's the county in all this?
So the county is certainly an important partner, particularly on the public health side. So I think the county's, I would say, advocate for businesses is the East Bay Economic Development Agency. And they're a partner that we reach out with. But I actually wanted to go back, Don, to your question about the barriers to applying. And I want to share how we actually addressed that last fall when our grant programs were around. So we worked with, what was it, our 5 chambers of commerce in Oakland, our other business support partners like the Unity Council, Black Cultural Zone, Occur, and they were able to help us by providing that one-on-one outreach to business owners to inform them of the opportunities, and in some cases actually provide that assistance. We have an amazing photo of the Unity Council actually did physically distanced in-person one-on-one assistance in the open air plaza there at Fruitvale Village to help those businesses who may not have had a computer, who may have had some language barriers to actually apply for all those different grant programs. So we really tried to help eliminate those barriers that we're aware of. In the coming year, I think we have to figure out how we're going to fiscally be able to do that, because there is a cost to build that capacity. But we definitely know that those are barriers we need to overcome.
I do want to offer, because I'm sort of seeing a little bit of possible solutions on kind of when you're talking around doing the Small Business Assistance Center mobile sort of pop-ups, I guess, as well as talking around in-person support for businesses in different parts of the city, is that we would be happy to host the Business Assistance Center for 1 month out of the year in our office with a desk and some internet access. It would be a fantastic benefit to our merchants, and we're on the ground floor and super accessible. Yeah, we'd love to offer that up.
I really appreciate that. And that's exactly the type of partnership that we're thinking about. So you cover Temescal, Unity Council could cover the Fruitvale, a space there, working with CJ out at the Black Cultural Zone to come up with a physical location. We would need something probably mid-east, as I would call it, in the heartlands, but I'm sure we could come up with something. So I truly believe that people shouldn't have to come to us. We should be able to try and make our services available to them, particularly because the pandemic has allowed us to put so many services online that used to be in person. So, and if, we won't have to have the full permit counter for them to get a permit. We'll have an online form we can help them fill out when we're in Temescal, kind of thing. So.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, if you have any more questions? We are at 6 o'clock. I just want to be mindful of folks' time. Yeah, this was, I think, a really great conversation, great presentation, Harry, and thank you so much for answering all those
Thank you,
questions.
Harry. It's a lot of good stuff in there. Thank you.
Oh,
Absolutely.
you're welcome. Thank you for your time, and just know that we're here. Shifra calls me and I actually pick up my phone, as do many of my colleagues. So feel free to reach out with help. I'll actually put my email address and phone number in the chat for anyone that wants to reach out directly. So actually, how does that work in Zoom? Does it disappear after the meeting closes?
It does.
So put it in now so we can take it down.
Keep it
Yeah,
down,
I'm
and they can
looking
always contact me if they want to talk to that guy who presented that one time. I am happy to connect.
and let's see, that guy that presented the one time, that narrows it down. This is the visual cue. You'll never forget my name, Harry. I used to go like this, but I can't do that so much anymore. So awesome. Any other questions or feedback? I so appreciate the opportunity and all of your time to share some feedback with us.
Excellent.
All right, well, thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, and I'll have to stop by. I'm a frequent eater at I can't name names, but a little restaurant